Hey, what's up you guys? It's Dorothy and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to go into chapter 3 of the 113 minutes. So let's get right into this video. So this video may contain sensitive topics and foul language. If you do not wish to continue, I suggest you click off the video now. You have been warned. 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Tomorrow marks 10 weeks to the day my son Alex died before my eyes. I can't believe it. It feels like barely 10 minutes. I can still remember so clearly the pair of fresh-faced paramedics who rushed into the hallway and lifted him onto a gurney. I remember the breakneck ambulance ride to the county hospital, all those machines he was hooked up to, clicking and beeping me, clutching his clammy hand, urging him to hang on to his life just as tight. I remember when we arrived and the EMT slid out of his stretcher. I saw the comic book Alex had in his back pocket. I got jostled and fluttered to the ground. He was wheeled away into the ER. I stopped to scoop it up and then frantically ran after them. I screamed and waved in the air like a madman, as if they were army medics carrying a blast victim off the battlefield and had left behind his missing limb. Of course, I wasn't thinking straight. How could any mother at the time like this? I kept wailing and bawling until finally one of the nurses took hold of those few dozen colorful pages and promised to give them to my son when he wakes up. I said, both my hands on her shoulders, please. The nurse nodded and smiled sadly. Of course, ma'am, when he wakes up. 2 days later, that crinkled comic book was returned to me. It came in a sealed plastic bag that also held my son's wallet, cell phone, and clothes that he was wearing when he was admitted, including his Converse wrapped in duct tape and his old pair of Levi's. Alex never woke up. My brother Hank suddenly jars me out of my dazed memory by punching the kitchen wall with his meaty fist so hard the framed pictures and hanging decorative plates all rattle. He's always been the hothead one. The firecracker in the family tonight is no different. The Rooks have owned this land for 3 generations, he shouts. No goddamn way we're gonna lose it to the bank in 3 months. Before any of us can respond, he punches the wall again, even harder, and an antique piece of china that belonged to our late grandmother Esther Rook slips off its holder and smashes into pieces. Debbie, Hank's bubbly blonde wife, gasped in horror, but I couldn't care less. It's just a thing, an object. Sure, it had been in our family for years, but today our family itself is shattered. My heart is shattered. Who cares if some stupid old plate is too? In fact, I'm happy to clean it up, happy for a distraction from all the yelling and cursing and arguing of the past hour, which I hope we can wrap up in a few more minutes. But before I can fetch a broom, Stevie takes my shoulder, walks us through it one more time. Molly says, it's one hell of a plan. I can't deny that. On the surface, it sounds reckless, crazy, nearly impossible, but I've had plenty of time to think over every last detail, and I believe with every piece of my broken heart that we can do it. We have to do it. See, well before Alex passed, the bank had been calling sometimes twice, 3 times a day. The notices were piling up. Stevie, Hank, their wives, and me were all scrimped as best we could. Even Alex, my big man, my baby, had been hammering over crumpled $5 bills he'd earned mowing Miss Baker's lawn down the road, but it wasn't enough. The payments, the interest, I knew we'd never be able to cover it all. We'd keep slipping further and further behind. I knew it was only a matter of time before we lost our home for good, and then we were faced with a totally unexpected additional expense which sped the process up even more, the cost of my only child's funeral. So now it's just 90 days. The 10-acre farm of our family has called home for so long will become the legal property of First Texas Credit Union unless we put my hell of a plan, the one I'd been mulling over for months, into action, and by the grace of God pull it off. Save your breath, Hank says to me. It's madness, Molly, pure and simple. Again, I can't deny that. At least under normal circumstances, I can't. Desperate times, says Stevie's wife, Kim, with quite intensity. A military daughter and spouse, she's a wise, brunette beauty, no stranger to her choices. Over the last 12 years that she's been married to my oldest brother, she's become the sister I never had. When it became clear that children of their own weren't in the cards, she have gotten resentful, bitter. Instead, Kim directed all that excess love toward Alex. She was the only one of us, for example, who had the patience to teach him how to ride a bike, a hobby he kept up until his last days. I want to know what he thinks, Hank fires back, pointing at the man who's been sitting in the adjacent dining rooms, sipping iced tea with lemon, listening patiently this whole time, barely uttering a word. If he says it's crazy, you know it's gotta be. Doesn't matter, I say. This is family only. Either we're all in or we're all out, right on our asses too. My brothers and sister-in-laws chew on that. So do Nick and JD, 2 retired Marines Stevie served within the Middle East so long ago, who became as close as blood, especially in recent years. They become like big brothers to Alex. taking him on hunting and fishing trips for some critical male bonding. They were in the second row at his funeral, two burly ex-soldiers dabbing their eyes. I explained one final time exactly what I'm proposing. My plan is a long haul with short odds. It might cost us everything, but doing nothing definitely would. After a tense silence that feels like it goes on forever, Stevie says simply. Marines don't mince their words. Semper Fi, says Nick, stepping forward. He and JD both give stiff salutes. Kim clasps her husband's hands. That makes four then. Debbie nervously twirls her yellow locks, blinking, unsure. I like Debbie, or should I say I've grown to like her. We probably wouldn't be friends if she weren't married to my brother. Debbie, sweet but timid, tries a little too hard to please. She'd rather go with the flow than rock the boat, especially when her husband's in it. She looks to Hank for guidance. She doesn't get it, so she does something surprising. She goes with her gut. This place, after all these years, it's become my home too. I'll do it. Hank throws up his hands. He's the final holdout. You're asking me to pick my family or my conscience. You understand that? My eyes fluttered to a framed, faded photograph on the wall of Alex at age 6. He's sitting in a tire swing hanging from the branch on a giant oak tree on our farm, smiling, a gap-toothed grin. He looks so little, so happy, so innocent, so alive. Sounds like an easy choice to me, I say. At last, with a heavy sigh, Hank nods. He's in too. And so the vote is unanimous. My plan is a go. Just one little problem, Debbie says nervously, bending down now to pick up the pieces of the antique plate her husband broke. Where are we going to get 75 grand to pull this thing off? That is going to be the end of this chapter. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.